All right, so before we begin, if you could everyone please stand up? Go ahead, please stand up. I just want to make sure I have the right information for the right audience this evening. So out of all of us here tonight, if anybody's ever has a loved one who's been affected by cancer, please go ahead and sit down. If anybody ever has a loved one who's ever been affected by heart disease, please sit down. If anybody has ever had a loved one who's been affected by vaccinations, medications, an unneeded surgery, go ahead and sit down. Please look around the room. When is enough enough? The top 3 leading causes of death here in America today are just that. Number 3 is cancer. Number 2 is heart disease. Number 1 is iatrogenesis, meaning death by medical error, medical malpractice, botched surgery, or overutilization of the medical system. If we looked at VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Effect Reporting System, and knowing that less than 1% of cases are reported, that means over 99% of the vaccine injuries and deaths are not even reported. If we looked at VAERS and combined it with the iatrogenesis across the nation, I believe that that would far exceed the rates of cancer and heart disease combined. Yet we still live in a day where billions of dollars are spent, decades of research are invested, and organizations you have like Susan B. Komen, the American Heart Association, they're still looking for the cure of cancer and heart disease. Yet we also seen that the tides have been shifting, where you have the mother just down the street who walked out of the pediatrician's office because they did not respect her request to not vaccinate her child. My friends, we the people have spoken, and we've been being heard in addition to that. Today I get the privilege to share with you over the next 19 minutes a message of health that has changed my life. I believe it to be the greatest message in healthcare. I'm also going to share with you how we talk in the trenches, having a family practice, how we talk about vaccination in the office, and how we can shift perspectives to make informed decisions for their family's health and move away from a medical paradigm, the default healthcare system that is robbing our body from our God-given right to be healthy. My hope today is that I bring you some value, some tools that you can utilize to be able to talk to loved ones, family members, or friends. Now for me, I grew up very medicated, vaccinated, and sick. I was 5 years old, sitting in a cold oncology room with my parents. This is up at Penn State Hershey Medical Center. Knock on the door, doctor walks in and says, "I have bad news. Your son has leukemia." "Not my child," said my mother. "Is this the way my son was born? Are these the cards he was dealt? Is this the way he's always going to be?" So not knowing any different, we went through with chemo and radiation. A couple months passed, the doctor came back and said, "We were wrong. Your child, Andrew, does not have leukemia. He has ITP. Stands for idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura." Essentially that meant I didn't produce enough platelets, and they feared that if I played a contact sport and hit my head, I could eternally bleed and die. Well, this was very frustrating for me growing up. I had to sit on the sidelines at gym class. I couldn't play contact sports like my friends. And if I did want to participate in gym class, I would have to wear a helmet. And I remember going into the school in the heat of the summer. Florida has hot summers, by the way, where I'd have to wear long sleeves and long pants because I was embarrassed of the bruises on my arms and my legs. At the same time, my brother was diagnosed with autism. So for my parents, that was pretty difficult growing up. Now, that was at a time where the autism rates were 1 in 1,500. back in the early 2000s. Now now 25 years later, it's 1 in 36 children. I was 12 years old when I started to see a chiropractor. And he started to educate me on how my body's designed to function and how my nervous system controls and coordinates all the health of my body. What he said to me made sense. And as I started getting under care, I started to notice my health improve. My ear infections went away. My allergies started to clear up. I didn't get sick as often. My headaches went completely away. But the biggest improvement I noted was my blood work started to normalize. It started to come up in more normal levels. I was excited and I was sold, to the point where it drove me to pursue becoming a chiropractor. So I went off to school, and in my last year, and while I was at school, by the way, I took an interest and liking in the connection between autism and chiropractic. And in my last year of school, I met a girlfriend. And we were at the bar one night talking. She said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Well, I'm aspiring to be a chiropractor, a pediatric family chiropractor." She goes, "Oh, that's cool. Well, thank God I don't need you because I don't have any neck pain or sciatica." I said, "Well, what do you do for a living?" She said, "I'm a nurse practitioner, but I work with pediatric oncology. I give kids cancer and radiation at their most vulnerable stages in life." I said, "Wow, that's noble. Let me ask you a question. Do you ever work with children with ITP?" She said, "Yes, all the time." I'm like, "Do you vaccinate those children with cancer and ITP?" She said, "Yes, we do." I'm like, "Let me ask you another question, if you don't mind. Do you believe that vaccinations cause autism?" She said, "No, of course not. That science is flawed and it's been debunked a long time ago." You see, when people come into our office, we notice that there's confusion about what health is. A lot of times I'll ask the question, what is health? And people say, "Well, doc, I know I'm healthy because I look good or I feel good." But people feel good every day and have heart attacks, feel good every day and have cancer. So if we just base our health off the presence of symptoms or the lack thereof, meaning if it's not broke, don't fix it. If I don't feel it, I'm fine. And if I keep the symptoms at bay, then hey doc, thumbs up, I'm okay. If we base our health off how we feel, we miss the boat. So if health isn't strictly on feeling good, what is it? It's about functioning good. And what controls all function in our body? It's our nervous system. Our brain, spinal cord, and nerves allows our heart to beat, lungs to breathe, food to digest, hormones to regulate, and we don't even have to think about those processes. I don't know about you, but if I had to wake up every single morning and kickstart my heart, tell my lungs to breathe, I would have forgot a long time ago. That's our nervous system. Now, everybody knows that the brain controls it all. And everybody knows that the spine's job is to protect that nervous system. But not everybody knows exactly what the job of the nervous system is. Let me give you an example. Love them or hate them, the World Health Organization said in 2020, the #1 cause of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, chronic illness in America is stress. Stress. I believe it's not. I believe it's the body's ability or inability to adapt to stress. Let me give you an example. If we had a classroom full of children and they all went outside, and say the pollen count was really high, some of those children would cough, sneeze, get watery eyes. Some of those children breathe the same air and they're perfectly fine. My question to you is it the quality of the air or the body's inability to adapt? That's where our nervous system comes in play. So the main job of our nervous system is to adapt to the stresses we're faced with. We can't avoid the stresses, but if we can adapt to them, both external and internal stressors, we're going to have a better, healthier outcome. Period. Now, there's different types of stress that people are faced with. We call them the 3 T's: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. So you got your physical stresses, your emotional stresses, and your toxic stresses. The physical, most people know what those are. They're the slips, falls, accidents, injuries, repetitiveness over time. The second portion is emotional, right? Dog dies, taxes due, rent payment late. But the third is the toxic. In adults, we have emotional stressors. We have physical stressors. In a newborn, what's the number one stress in a newborn? It's the toxic stress. It's today's current vaccine schedule. We see children come into the office, they're unvaccinated, you look in their eyes and they're clear as can be. We see children come into the office, they're vaccinated, and you look in their eyes and their tone is different. Their energy is different. They may not have present primitive reflexes. Something's off. Now, they may not have symptoms as a result, but I believe that toxic stress limits their body from functioning to its fullest potential. You see, what's the difference between a child that gets vaccinated and has no noticeable symptoms and a child who gets vaccinated and is quote-unquote damaged by that vaccine? What's the difference? It's that nervous system. It's the nervous system can adapt to that toxic stress or it cannot. And if it cannot, it's going to manifest symptoms as a warning sign saying, help me, help me. Yet we live in a time where it's common to ignore those warning signs, where we treat the symptom, never get to the cause. See, I had a little boy come in, 6 years old, used to talk, used to walk, used to play sports, got around the vaccines, can no longer talk, walks on his tippy toes, stims, and has seizures. You asked mom what's the cause, she said 100% vaccination. Now this child was receiving occupational therapy, physical therapy, chelation therapy to help filter the blood. So there's healthy things we can do for our body, but it doesn't directly heal the body. If I cut my finger and then I cut the finger of a corpse, which finger heals? His or mine? Obviously mine. So it's life that heals us, and healing is an inside job, never from the outside in. So everything this family was doing for the child was try to achieve health from the outside in. Now I believe if it once was, it always may be. If it never was, it probably never will be. So if a child is born with a missing part of their brain, they're going to have effects for as long as they live. But if a child was born fully functional, able to be a productive member of society, and then they get vaccinated and go downhill, I believe they can heal. I believe they can heal. If it once was, it always can be. So in this child's case, we started adjusting his nervous system, working with his nervous system. And he was able to get really good benefit. He was able to get more benefit out of doing just the treatment from the outside in alone. You see, chelation is good. Filter the kidneys, filter the blood, detox the body. But true detox happens in our nervous system. If the spine is moving well, the nervous system can filter the stresses it's faced with. Oh, and by the way, how much thimerosal, mercury, aluminum, how much of that can the human body handle? How much of that can a newborn baby's body handle? The answer is 0. Because I believe if God didn't put it inside of us, it shouldn't be in us. So this boy, he started to improve. And we get the honor of seeing that happen pretty regularly in the office by working with the nervous system. How do we do it? We get the spine moving better so the nervous system can adapt better, period. And if a child's adapting, they're going to be able to meet those milestones and set a positive trajectory for their health as they grow. How do we have those conversations? Well, A lot of times we'll meet parents where they're at as first-time parents, not knowing the decisions to come. So we provoke thought-leading questions. Hey, do you have a birth plan? Hey, are you going to do erythromycin? Hey, is it a home birth, a hospital birth, or a birth? What type of delivery do you desire? So those are thought-provoking questions. Then we give them resources. We give them books. If you guys never read Vax vs. On-Vax, incredible book by Dr. Hooker. The layperson can read it, but the graphics and the graphs speak volume. I'm not going to go too far in today to the books we recommend, the videos we recommend, or the resources to read. But I will say this, is that if you want them, I'm going to give them to you. All you have to do is text the number 561-396-9873. Text MAHA, M-A-H-A, MAHA to that number, and it'll automatically send you a document I created. We recommend pediatricians that don't vaccinate or don't require vaccination. And we recommend people in our area to get vaccine exemptions for those children that the parents that desire for their children. Okay? Now, back in post-COVID era, they did a Gallup panel study that showed why people got the COVID shot. The number one cause, well, they made decisions out of fear, frustration, or not knowing any different. Fear is I feared the virus, so I'd get the vaccine. Frustration is I was frustrated by my coworkers, my family, my friends, and I felt pressured, so I got it. And number 3 is not knowing any different, meaning they were led astray, perhaps by a doctor with alternative motive, or a doctor that just didn't know the real science. Well, we use that same psychology in the office to educate and steer people against vaccinations. Fear, frustration, not knowing any different. Now, we can fear somebody into the ingredients of what vaccines have, right? Or we could use frustration tactics, meaning it's a corrupt pharmaceutical system all out for profitable gain upon your children. But we're not advocates of fear or frustration. We leave those to the side. What we focus on is standing in the gap and meeting people where they're at to try to expand their knowledge to hope that they make the best informed decision at the end of the day. Doctor means teacher. In Latin, doctor means teacher. And the job of a teacher is to lead. You are all leaders. And the job of a leader is to intercept the paths of others to let them know they matter. So when you talk to your family and your friends, I encourage you, be bold, be confident. The research is there. Research follows rhetoric, but the testimonies are there. Okay? The testimonies are there. We live in a time now more than ever where more people are not going forth with vaccination schedules like they once were 20 years ago. Right? The tides are shifting, and they're shifting fast. If you remember that girlfriend I told you about, the one who was a nurse practitioner, the one who's seen kids with cancer and gave them radiation and chemo, the one who saw ITP kids and vaccinated them, well, she became my wife. And 9 years today, we are married. We have 3 beautiful children, all of which were born at home. 1 in the tub, 1 in the bed, and 1 in the pool. All 3 were adjusted right after birth, not because they had a health issue, but we know that a properly functioning nervous system will set a positive trajectory for their health to come. Healthy kids make healthy adults. Unfortunately, the vice versa is true also. So I encourage you to be bold. Because when you know a message of truth, it can literally impact the lives of others. So thank you.